On tonight's edition of The Overtime, we will take a look at the early stages of NAU women's basketball's new season and the changes that have been made in the offseason. NAU Swim and Dive is making a splash. We'll take a look at their season up to this point. And finally, we will preview the season for Flagstaff boys and Coconino girls basketball. All that and more on tonight's edition of The Overtime. Thank you for joining us and welcome to this edition of The Overtime, Northern Arizona's only sports show. I'm Sam Oshins, and we have a packed show for you tonight with a lot of local sports action. And joining me is sports reporter Jasmine Flores. Jasmine, how's it going?
It's going good, Sam. I'm just trying to get this show on the road, so let's get started.
All right, let's do it. Our first topic of the night is NAU women's basketball and their impressive play early on this season. Jasmine, what are your expectations for the Jacks this season?
Sam, this season is going to be known as a new era for Northern Arizona's women's basketball, who are coming into the season only having a one double-digit win in the last 5 years. People don't expect much from these Lady Jacks, but they are only proving people wrong and starting off the season against UTEP with a victory and yet another victory against Antelope Valley. But I want to emphasize on the second win against Antelope Valley this season, where the final score was 109 to 60 points. I know this team has a drive and what they've been striving for, especially with the team being led by senior guards Renee Cogans and Brittany Luzane. My expectations for this team are high. Joining the Lumberjacks this season will be walk-on Chelsea Bettany, who was an accomplished prep player in the state of Arizona. And to answer your question, Sam, this team has so much talent this year. Each player knows what to bring to the court, and I am so sure that these Jacks are going to impress the Big Sky opponents and head coaches in this season and make good push for the playoffs.
I agree with you 100%, and I also believe that this team is light years better than last year's squad. Last season was a bit of a letdown for the Jacks, as they only won 6 games all season, and the ladies really struggled on both sides of the ball, as the most points they scored in a game was 91, and that was against a Division II team. And they finished the season on a 10-game losing streak. Within that streak, NAU allowed at least 70 points in 9 of the 10 games, including a whopping 111 points to Sacramento State. Heading into this season, we saw a change in coaching with the exit of Sue Darling and the hiring of Robyne Bostick as the interim head coach. And so far, the change has been a successful one, as the Jacks have already won 3 games, which is only 3 less than last season's total. Moving over to the pool, NAU Swim and Dive is in full swing, and they are looking to ride the wave from last year's success. What does NAU need to do to be successful?
This season, I don't really believe NAU needs a whole lot to be successful. Sure, this team is full of fresh faces with 10 newcomers among the 24-member team, but this team is so diverse in what they could do, with senior Alexa Geiger, who is a reigning WAC Diver of the Year, returning with their teammates Yurti Kavasakute and Sarah Lenoff, who have combined 20 all-conference honors. There is no doubt this team is being led by an accomplished senior class. But that's not where it stops. They have a great junior class such as Claire Hammond, Audrey Mann, who combined for a total of 265.3 points at the conference meet this past March. This team has an intense schedule coming their way, competing against schools like Arizona State, Boise State, and Washington State, plus a swimming invitational, this Kansas Classic. NAU's first ever diving invitational will prepare the team for the end of February, and I know this team is ready for this competition and even believe they have the ability to be more successful than ever. Sam.
Yep, it's going to be an interesting season for the Lumberjack Swim and Dive team. Juniors Ronnie Hewick, Alina Staufdad, and Kimmy Richter hold some of the fastest times on the season for the Jacks. For the junior class this year to harness their skills and prepare for the next season when they will lead this team. So far this season hasn't lived up to the enormous expectations that the team had coming in, but there is a lot of time for the Jacks to correct their issues and rebound as they search for another WAC title. Back on the court, the Flagstaff Eagles boys basketball team started their season on Tuesday and have a lot of pressure and are facing a lot of questions heading into the season as they lost key players to graduation in the offseason and are trying to continue their success from last season. Jasmine, can the Flagstaff Eagles overcome adversity?
You know, Sam, that is the biggest question being asked about the Flagstaff Eagles this season. The team lost 4 of their 5 starters from the last season to graduation, and these losses will be hard to overcome as the Eagles lost. Bridger Hershey, Brett Morrow, Caleb Hagerman, and Caleb Sandoval, those four were not only the leaders in the most statistical categories for the Eagles, but were also the glue that allowed this team to stay mentally tough throughout the season. But there are some key players that are still on the team to watch out for, such as Tim Dana and Brandon Tiffany. Tim Dana is a wide receiver for the Flagstaff Eagles and a shooting guard for the basketball team. Brandon Tiffany is a senior point guard, so I know this team can overcome any obstacle that comes their way. With each upcoming brings new faces, new talent, I predict this team is going to do well.
Last season was one of the greatest in Flagstaff High School history as they went 24-6 and had a deep playoff run. One player that I'm excited to watch is Christian Singleton, who is also the starting quarterback for Flagstaff football. And he is a senior who is playing his last seasons for the Eagles, and you can bet he is hungry for more action after a very intense football season. One big change for the Eagles is a regime change, as coach James Kirk has stepped down to an assistant position and has given control to former JV coach Nick Walton. We shall see if this team can come together and return to the playoffs under their new coach. Staying on the court, the Lady Panthers from Coconino High School are looking to build on a good season from last year. One big thing that is always on the Panthers' radar is beating their crosstown rivals, the Flagstaff Eagles, and last season they split the series. This team certainly isn't the same as last year, though. How are the Lady Panthers going to improve?
These Panthers are always working hard. After closing their 2016 regular season with an 11-7 record, these ladies have it under control. But the biggest task for head coach Martin Reyes so far is that last year's team consisted of 4 seniors, 8 juniors, and 2 sophomores. The seniors graduated and the juniors didn't come back, so just filling in those positions. But not to worry. Change is good, and the team is whipping up a recipe for victories. Coach Reyes has even mentioned that he has his eye on a few key players, such as Hannah Harvey, Taylor Hansen, and Cheyenne So, who he knows are going to contribute and be successful this season. So I'm sure they're going to win tons of games, and this is the haunting that the Panthers, they lost 2 out of the 3 to Flagstaff last year. So if anything, their goal this season is going to put the hurt on the Eagles.
That is a good point, Jasmine. This team is in a similar boat to the Flagstaff boys team, as they are having to fill multiple voids left by departing players. One player I have my eye on is senior point guard JJ Nakai, who was a big part of last year's team and also one of the Panthers' leading scorers.